Welcome back. We're still talking about Syria. Seems to be capturing most of the conversation in the national dialogue right now. Has the fact that we went into Iraq and the ramifications of what happened there, has that changed the way the American people look at war and when the United States should be involved? Richard Rosario joins us, a Democratic activist, and Kent Batman from the Hardin County GOP chair area. Give me an idea, Mr. Kent. What do you think about that? Do the American people look at it differently? Is there more opposition to war now? We just saw Senator John McCain blistered, in fact, in a Phoenix town hall meeting. Yeah.
Absolutely. The American people are not as interested to get in any conflict as they were some time back. Back during the Iraq War, and some time back, we were still recently thinking about Twin Towers burning, so people were more anxious. Nobody's anxious to get into Syria this time. I can't find a supporter in Southeast Texas for going.
Was it the president's failure in Libya that actually put us in a place where we don't really believe that Syria will have a good military resolution?
It was saying it was a video that caused the uprising. That's where his credibility got hurt.
And what happened in Libya then, evidently, is in our mindset. Of course, Teddy Roosevelt fomented some information that helped in the Spanish-American War. What are you going to start with next? He's been on poor W, been on W's case now about Iraq for a little while. What next? Teddy Roosevelt?
It wasn't Teddy Roosevelt. It was William Randolph Hearst that sunk the Maine, trumpeted that.
And he probably was a Republican too.
Let me understand. Obama lost Libya. Is it Obama somehow responsible for the?
He lost credibility.
The serious and
he lost credibility.
I play a little, but the serious thing doesn't change the American people's view of war to see us go into not just a Libya, but to go into Somalia and to a large extent fail pretty miserably. Richard, give me your thoughts on that.
Are you gonna let me answer?
I think if didn't go into the war, I think we'd have to go back to Iraq. I think that still has a lot of impact on the American people. We still, when we think of Iraq, we think of soldiers dying. Yeah. We think of our debt going up. And so really, I think we're still a bit uneasy to go into war because the reason, like he said, we went into war with Iraq because of 9/11.
Do you see the rationale, would you have been able to support the Libya attacks that cost us roughly $1 billion a day to go in and fight? Would you have supported the Libya strikes that the United States was involved in?
Well, it's kind of tricky on that one.
We didn't go into Libya and fight, for Christ's sakes.
Well, let me be precise.
They fired cruise missiles at $1.5 million a copy.
James. I mean, it's war. It's still people dying.
Of course, the Iraq experience soured Americans. We had 5,000 of our troops died in Iraq for essentially a war based on a lie. Every time Black Hawk Down plays on the movies, we relitigate Somalia. If you're sitting at home watching that, oh boy, you don't want that.
The question I continue to ask, but can't get James Shannon to answer, is whether this has changed, whether it's Iraq that changed everyone's viewpoint, or it's over the course of time, we as the American people have become more isolationist. And you keep wanting to take everything back to Iraq.
You just mentioned Iraq. Of course there's an Iraq hangover. And the American people are traditionally isolationist. They're slow to anger. They want to stay out. For Lord's sake, FDR won election in 1940 pledging to keep the U.S. out of World War II. The Monroe Doctrine is, beware of foreign entanglements, and so that's as old as America.
What is the Obama Doctrine? Strike when you say red line, and you kind of get in the weeds there.
The problem is nobody could define it, and again, you can't come back to it. It has to do with credibility. Should he have made the very first statement? Probably not. Should he have known the American people weren't interested in going to war? Probably so. But right now, it's credibility, and you can't sell his idea to anybody. That's the problem.
Big question that we've gone around several issues, but let's go to the big question. What is the actual moral rationale for when the United States should be involved in war? And I'll go down the line on this. When is it enough for the United States maybe to be involved in military action against a confirmed tyrant? Okay, just a tyrant. Do we have to go in with a tyrant that is involved in large-scale weapons of mass destruction attacks on his own people? Does he also have to, you know, attack our shipping, for example, or threaten our national interests in terms of geopolitical concerns, you know, perhaps our petrochemicals from across the world? Or does it have to be in the Western Hemisphere? Where do we fall down? What is the moral, you know, rationale for the U.S. to get involved in war? I start with you, Kent.
Okay, I think there has to be an attack on our national interests. Okay, but you could argue that, like in the case of Hitler, where possibly Hitler wasn't attacking us personally, and we got into the war because of Japan.
Yeah.
There was still, it was obvious we were going to. He made it clear he was going out from there. So you could say that you would preemptively strike, but it still has to do with our national interests affected or going to be affected.
Okay, Richard, what do you think is the right place for the United States to be involved in war or military action?
I think a good rationale would be, I think what we saw. I think we saw children dying. We saw that he had chemical weapons, weapons of mass destruction.
It would be genocide, but plausibly genocide anywhere, Africa, wherever?
Well, with this one, since it was chemicals, and since we've sort of had our eye on them for a little bit, I think that would be a good enough reason for military strike.
Most people agree that was indeed an atrocity. And your view, sir?
Well, you'd like to think the color of the corpses in a genocidal situation don't matter, but history suggests they do. Look, we have treaties with other countries that says if they're attacked, we will go to their defense. So that was what the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was about after World War II. It's a tough question. I don't have an easy answer. If our interests are threatened, obviously we have the obligation to go to war. I'll be interested.
In Syria?
No. It's in this case it's an international norm. I'll be interested.
I think you just argued yourself out of the same support you just pledged for Syria at the beginning of today's conversation.
It's a gray area. If it was easy, it would have already been decided. I think there's still a chance the Congress will authorize the war, the military strike. I don't know what that'll solve, quite frankly. I really don't.
Got to run. We're back in just a moment.